Hi, good morning. Thanks for joining me for this Stahls TV live class. I'm Karyn, and if you're a new Stahls TV viewer, welcome. If you're a returning Stahls TV live class watcher, you've probably already figured out that this is my first class. I am very excited. I hope you're excited too. We're going to learn all about CAD-CUT Flock today. I want to give everybody a really thorough understanding of this material because honestly, I think it's kind of a misunderstood material. I think it often gets tossed behind the other special effect materials like glitter, flake, and fashion film electric and reflective because of two main things. Having trouble cutting the material, it often intimidates people. It's a very thick material. It has kind of a different carrier than the other materials. It's a little harder to cut, but once you get it cut accurately, you can do almost limitless things with this material design-wise. And then the other reason that I think flock is often pushed aside is because people don't really know what markets to sell it to. They don't know who likes flock, what goes good with flock, what can I use this with. So we're going to try to solve both of those issues for you today. And before we delve further into the class, I have a poll that I'd like to launch for you guys. So we'll go ahead and launch that now. I'd like to hear from you. Taylor's going to help me. And I'm going to give you a few minutes, a few seconds to answer this question. Tell me which markets you think flock appeals to. As the answer might surprise you, I think you can select more than one answer. Select whichever markets you think flock is good for using. And I'll give you a little while to give us an answer. Okay, so Taylor, could you read the results for me for that?
Sure, so we have 70% of you thought retail boutique, 90% said corporate, 70% said spirit and sport, and 60% said cheer and dance.
Okay, awesome. So you all answered pretty high for every market, and you're correct. Flock really appeals to all of these markets and more markets. So a little later on in the class, we're going to give you design ideas and examples of how you can decorate for all of these markets, plus one extra market that wasn't really on the list that might surprise you. But before we do that, I want to start with cutting flock. That's the first thing you need to know before you can start using it. You need to know how to cut it. So I'm going to head over to the cutter and start to show you how to cut flock. So over here we're using the Graphtec CE6000 cutter. Don't worry if you have a Roland because I'll talk about those cut settings after this demonstration. But for flock, like I said earlier, it's a little bit thicker. So your downforce has to be a little bit higher than like for fashion film or premium plus, and speed really depends on the detail of the design you're cutting. If you have a more detailed design, you're going to want to take your speed down a little slower. If you have a basic block design, you can have a higher speed. It'll cut just fine. But so we'll talk about downforce first. And excuse me as I step over a wire here so I can show you. You're going to want to go into your settings on your cutter. On the Graphtec, you're going to hit your Condition Test button, and that'll take you to your settings page. And if you have a Graphtec, you already know that you have pre-programmed material settings. So that's up here. You can pick through all of your settings, find you may already have flock in there, or if you have something similar to flock, you can also select that setting and edit the force and the speed as you go. So right now on this cutter, we don't have flock stored, but we do have glitter flake, which is another thicker material, and they have very similar cut settings. So I'm going to select glitter flake there, and I have the force set to 21, and that's perfect for us right now with this blade. It's been used a couple times with thicker materials like reflective and glitter flake and flock, so it's a little duller. It's a 45-degree blade, which is good for the Graphtec cutter. If you do have a Roland cutter, for flock you're going to want to use a 60-degree blade. And that'll help you cut that thicker material a lot easier. You'll be able to get higher detail. But back to the Graphtec for now. So I'm going to leave that at 21, but it can go, if you have a sharper blade, down as low as 19, and then if your blade is really dull, to about as high as 22. But 21 to 2021 usually works great for me. And then I am going to change our speed. So that's number 3 on the Graphtec, and it's really simple. It shows you all of your speeds for all of your different preset settings. And I'm just going to take our speed up a notch because I don't want this to take really long while we're in the class, and it's a basic design, so I don't have a lot of detail. I won't be running the risk of ruining my design, so I'm just gonna enter that in, and it sets my speed to 30. If I want to get out of the settings menu, I'm just going to hit the condition button, and you're ready to go. As long as you set your origin, you have your cut file ready in your cut software, and I'm going to go ahead and send that to the cutter now. And it's going to go ahead and cut our design. So I'll give that a second. And you can see it's kind of working faster because I turned up the speed to 30, but that's still not very high. I've seen people cut at speeds of 35 or higher, and it really just zooms through that, but that's really for a basic design. For flock, you don't want to go too high just because of the thickness of the material. You don't want the blade to be dragging. And as you can see, the blade is kind of lifting up after every corner or little turn. That's the tangential emulation feature that GraphTech has. We have that turned on right now in this particular cutter, so it takes a little longer, but you're going to get a cleaner cut with that tangential emulation on. It's not going to give you those jagged edges, it's not going to pull your material, and you'll also have an easier time weeding if you use the tangential emulation, if you don't mind the extra 5 to 10 seconds of cutting time, so it's really convenient. But while we're waiting for this, I'm going to reach over here and grab our scissors so I can cut it off for you as soon as we're done. And it looks like we're coming to the end here, the last couple of letters. I stuck with a basic design. I don't want to bore you guys with the cutting. I just want to show you that it is possible to cut flock accurately. That way you can use it more. Because if your cutting process is simple, you're going to be more likely to use a material. Because nobody wants to waste time in the cutting and weeding process, especially if you have larger orders or you know somebody has a time frame that's very short and you want to get their order done. So I'm going to go ahead and cut our design off there. I'm going to come back to the table and I'm going to show you how easily flock weeds when it's cut accurately. So I'll hold that up there for you. Another thing I really like about flock is that you don't really even need a weeder to start weeding it. For the cavities and everything, the weeder is really handy. But I'm going to start weeding into the cavities the proper way to make it a little bit easier. And you can see how it just like pulls right up if it's weeded correctly. And flock, even when cut accurately, sometimes will break off, but you don't have to worry about the corners of your actual design lifting with this material. Just the way the fibers stick to the carrier, it's on there pretty good, even though it doesn't feel very tacky. So flock is kind of like a grip and rip material. You don't really need to take your time with an accurate cut. So you just keep going. Don't worry about those corners lifting. If you have accurate cut settings, you're going to be fine with your material. You can just rip it off, and there's the basic. All the excess material is gone minus the cavities, and those you would just easily pick out with an easy weeder and you'd be on your way. And like I said, grip it, rip it, don't worry about it. It's not going to break. As long as it's cut accurately, you'll have a completed design really easily. So, and that's for cutting on the GraphTech. And I also have the roll-in cut settings here. If you do have a roll-in cutter, you'll want to use that 60-degree blade like I mentioned before. Your downforce is going to be anywhere from 170 to 220, which translates to 17 to 22 on the GraphTech. So like I said, I'm used to using around 19 to 21, usually sticking with the 20 to 21 range, and that works really, really well for me with cutting flock. You'll see later I have a design where I got really, really fine detail with this material, and that's a lot of people think that you can only do big block lettering with flock or big designs, but it's kind of impressive. You'll see that a little bit later. You're going to want to have a 50 offset, and you're going to want to keep your speed anywhere from 15 to 35 centimeters per second, and that's on the roll end. So if you have a really detailed design, you're going to want to keep it down to 15. If you have a higher detail design, you're going to push it up to 35. So now that you know how to cut flock, you can make detailed designs, you can make basic designs, you're ready to use flock. So we're going to show you how to use flock in different design applications for different markets so that you can really take this material and get the most out of it, rather than, you might have some sitting on your shelf and you're like, I really don't know what to do with this material. So hopefully these design ideas will open up some opportunities for you, and you'll be able to pull that flock off the shelf and really get some use out of it. So that being said, I'm going to head straight over to the heat press and start working on these designs. And the first one I have for you is for the retail and boutique market. So it's kind of one of my favorites. So we'll get started on that. So for this design, I chose a really soft, flowy garment, and that's kind of going to help bring together the whole look that I'm trying to achieve here. This is a Bella Canvas flowy slouchy t-shirt, and for retail and boutique markets, you'll notice that a lot of the times they're using these soft kind of flowy garments. That's kind of their niche. These retail and boutique stores are generally the small shops that you would see in outlets at the mall. They're usually owned by the person making the shirts, or it's a few collaborative people making the shirts. Or boutique shops are also very popular online. So if you've ever seen Etsy stores, websites generated from Etsy stores, Shopify accounts, these people are creating these designs and using heat transfer vinyl and screen printed transfers usually to create simple, minimalistic designs that they're really profiting with, just using special effect material and really nice garments. They're able to charge a premium for these items. So I'm going to get this garment loaded on, and I will show you our design that I've created for you. So I'm going to pull the shirt all the way back and take it by the seam and just kind of pull it back straight to get that collar off of our platen. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick preheat, check my pressure. That seems good, just a few seconds to get all the moisture and wrinkles out. And as you can see, this is my design just for this shirt. Simple text, one color. This is very popular for boutiques and online stores like this. Retail designs now are becoming more and more minimalistic. Usually you'll see just plain text, lettering, words, or very basic minimal outline clip art. And that's really what's popular, especially with younger adults now, and they're kind of taking over a lot of this market. They're, getting their own jobs. They're just out of college. They're just in college. This is the kind of stuff that they're willing to buy, and they're usually willing to pay a little bit more for it. So we're going to go ahead and center that on our shirt. Real easy. I'm going to go ahead and put a cover sheet on there just in case there's anything on my upper platen. And it's a one color flock design. Flock is going to be pressed at 320 degrees for 15 to 20 seconds. So I'm going to lock it in here. I have it set to 15 seconds. And we're almost done. And I'm going to remove my cover sheet, and flock is a cool peel. So it doesn't necessarily need to be completely cold, but it shouldn't really be hot either, warm. Sometimes I take my sleeve of whatever shirt I'm wearing and just run it over the design to keep it from keeping in all that heat, just to get any of that heat out. So go ahead and give it a few more seconds to cool. And then you just take your carrier, and with flock, when I'm peeling it, I like to hold it down just because this carrier often grabs onto the fiber of the material, and when you peel it back, it can stretch the shirt. And I don't want the shirt to get stretched. I don't want my design to get stretched. So I just put my hand there to avoid any stretching, keep the letters in place. And there it is. Very simple, minimalistic, but the best thing about this design is the feel of it. So I'll go ahead and hold it up so you can see it. And very basic, very trendy. People love these shirts with phrases on them because they're relatable to them. And once they come up to your shop, or they see their high quality photos online and they see that texture feel, this is so much more than just a screen printed transfer or vinyl now. This is comfortable, this is soft, this is something that I can wear around my house, something I can wear to class. People will see this as valuable to them, and that's how you can sell these shirts with a simple design and a really nice garment. Makes it easy on you. And also, flock, surprisingly, for as thick of a material as it is, has a pretty soft hand to it once it's pressed onto the garment. You can kind of take it and crinkle it up and it doesn't like stay wrinkled. So I see we have a question, so I'll take that right now.
The question is, does Flock have a sticky carrier, and is the cut mirrored?
The cut is mirrored, and Flock's carrier is kind of a weird carrier. To touch it, it's not sticky. It feels fuzzy almost from the fibers that were left behind from the material that you've weeded away. But when you're weeding it away, those fibers are almost stuck to the carrier. When I was weeding it, you kind of saw me just pulling away. You kind of have to pull hard to get the material to come off. That's why I say it's kind of like a grip it and rip it material. But it, no, to touch the carrier, it's not sticky, but the material does hold on to that carrier very well. It's almost a struggle sometimes to pull it off. Okay, so I'm going to move on to our second design, which is for the corporate market. And I just have a regular long sleeve polo shirt, and we're going to do a left chest logo for the corporate market. And before we do any decorating, I'm going to have to switch out my platen here so that I can do a proper left chest logo. And for this, I've chosen to use the 6x10 platen. And this platen is going to make it really easy for me to isolate the print area on this shirt because it has plastic buttons, it has a pretty thick collar and some pretty thick seams, and I don't want any of that getting in the way of my print. So I'm going to go ahead and load my shirt on, making sure that the buttons and seams and collar are all off of the press. And what's nice about this platen is you can kind of use the button placement to center your design. And since I changed out my platen and I have a new shirt in there, I'm going to want to preheat and check my pressure. It's really, really low with that platen change. So we're going to up the pressure. Now it's a little too high. That's about where we want it to be. So now that we have our garment all placed and ready to go, this is the design that I was talking to you about earlier with that really, really fine detail. I don't know if you can see it on the overhead camera here, but that text beneath the Frosted Pines logo, Mountain Resort, is extremely, extremely thin. But this kind of goes back to the question if Flock has a tacky carrier. Feeling it, I can feel a little bit of tack to it, but you can see how those tiny letters really just clung on there. I didn't have any trouble weeding that or getting that, which is a common misconception with Flock, that you can't really get detailed designs. So I'm going to go ahead and place that on our shirt, and I'm going for a tone-on-tone effect here for this look for the corporate market. And I'm going to place our cover sheet. And again, this is a single color design, so I'm just going to press it at 320 for 15 seconds. And while we're talking about the corporate market, Flock is really good for this market because not only is it a nice, soft, fuzzy feel in the shirt, but it really gives it a faux applique look. And generally for businesses and corporate markets, applique is the decoration method of choice. People love applique looks on professional garments, on corporate garments, polos, and Oxford shirts. But you can achieve a very, very similar, almost indistinguishable look with using Flock. Get kind of the same feel. I'll let this cool down before I peel it off. Don't want any of those small letters to lift up. Get kind of the same look for a much lower price. So it benefits you, it'll benefit your customers because they'll be able to purchase the shirts that they would be paying large amounts for, but you're able to help them lower the price by being able to use this really awesome special effect material. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a pull. Again, holding my letters down just so I don't stretch this garment out. And there you have a corporate left chest logo. I really like this green on green look. It gives it a nice tone on tone effect, the dark green on the light green. And you can see how it's raised. It gives it that really nice faux applique look. Go ahead and hold it up for you so you can get the full spectrum of how this looks. And Flock is great for fun, fancy designs like the boutique and retail, but it's also really nice for corporate, professional looking designs for anybody who wants to look like they are, you know, extremely, extremely professional. And I see we have another question, so I'll take that before we start our next design.
The question is, what kind of fabrics are good for flock?
Flock works on cotton, polyester blends, and anything in between. It's not really good for temperature sensitive materials like viscose and rayon because of the high temperature of the press. You can press it mainly on 100% polyester athletic wear, and I would stick with a white or a lighter color just to avoid that scorching box around the outside. But generally, garments that don't scorch is what's really good for flock, just because it needs that higher temperature to be pressed. So I would stick with cotton poly and cotton poly blends. Any more questions? Okay, so next I have the sport and spirit market to talk to you about, and flock is really good for this market. This is usually the market that people assume flock is used for, I would say 90% of the time. But I think flock also kind of gets the rap of being more of a male-dominated material, whereas glitter is more female-dominated, but that's not true. Flock has some really nice, fun, girly colors, and I have two designs actually for the school spirit market that I'm going to show you now, and one is a male look and one is a female look, so you can kind of get the idea of how to use flock for both of those markets. So let me go ahead and switch out my platen here again. I'm going to go from the 6x10 back to our 16x20 platen, our big platen. Go ahead and pull that out there so I don't hit the upper platen. Lock that in and go ahead and load on our garment. So for this I just picked a cotton t-shirt, generally what you would use for school sales, plain cotton t-shirt for the male design. And now that we've seen one color flock designs, we're also going to venture into two color flock designs. So I have text in this design with gap spacing and an outline in a second color of flock. So what I like to do when I have two color designs like this is find my center and hold the the two pieces together. That way I can see how it lines up on the shirt before I give it that final press, you know, make sure everything's gonna fit. Try to get this as centered as possible. And that looks good there. So then I'm gonna take up that top layer and I'm gonna press my background layer, the layer that's gonna cover the wider area, and then I'll fill in with the inside text. So we'll go ahead, lock that down, and oh, I did make a mistake. I did not check my pressure before I decided to press this shirt. Always make sure you check your pressure with that preheat before you start. Learn from my mistakes. I'm going to press that background layer down for 15 seconds. And lift up on that. Take my cover sheet away and give it some time to cool down. Again, you're looking for that cool peel, not necessarily cold, but definitely not warm or hot. But I am going to be a little impatient here for time's sake and see if we're good to go. And it looks like we are. So I'm going to hold down my lettering. And you can see on this design as well, we were able to get some pretty fine detail in the outlines of the text here. So now that we have that first layer down, I'm going to go ahead and drop in the inside text, get that aligned there. Okay. And then I'm going to grab my cover sheet again. I'm going to lock down that press and press it again for 15 seconds. So Flock really brings a fun kind of feel to school spirit designs. This is for a university, but it's great for high school students, middle school students, and elementary school students. It's a really good way to generate group sales because most people will like the fun feel of the material, and they'll be drawn towards that more than a basic film like fashion film or premium plus. It kind of gives their garment an updated look. But this material is really good for collegiate apparel. It just kind of brings together the look of the garment. It has that like velvety almost finish to it. You can really see it here on this red color. It's really, really a rich feel. And I will hold it up for you so you can get the full idea. And there you can see it. We have Harvard on the Mon. If you're from Pennsylvania, I don't know how many of you are, you know that Cal U is our local college here around Uniontown, California, Pennsylvania. And it's on the Mon River and it's called Harvard on the Mon. So you can market fun phrases like that to colleges and high schools, and they're more than likely going to pick Flock over the basic films. And I see we have a question, so I'll take that now.
Are there any special wash instructions for Flock?
I don't have the exact answer. I know that it is guaranteed for the 25 to 50 washes, but I can follow up with you after the class, or I can always post the answer on the Stahls TV forum for you, but I'm pretty sure it is cool wash and tumble dry or air dry, but I will give you the exact answer either in the email after the class, or I'll answer it on the Stahls TV forum for you, whichever is best. So let me grab our next design, and before we get out of school spirit, I want to show you that female look that I was talking about and how you can generate sales for both males and females in the school and spirit wear market using Flock, just by using some different colors, some different fonts, and some different garments. So let me load in my 15 by 20 platen. And I'm going to load in a tank top, which is really, really popular amongst college females. They're always willing to go for a tank top over a t-shirt. It's more fun. It's kind of more girly. Gives it that flouncy feel, and like they're great for just wearing around or also wearing at the gym. So this time, changed out my platen. Gonna check my pressure and give it a preheat. Pressure's a little high. Okay. So we have the same two-color design idea here, but this time there's no gap spacing, there's no inlaying, there's no overlaying. We're just going to press two of these colors at the same time, and it's going to give you that same collegiate feel, but we were able to use script text underneath of like plain university text here, and it gives you that same school spirit look, but with a little bit of an added girly look for the females that you might be selling to. So I'm going to grab my cover sheet. I'm going to get this, press and lock it down for the 15 seconds. And I should mention, Flock can also be tacked as well for 5 seconds, but you need to make sure that when you peel it, it's still cool. You don't want to tack Flock for 5 seconds, grab it, rip it directly off, and then have your whole design come up. You want to give it time to cool down and adhere to the shirt. That way, you don't have to waste a garment or your one design. I didn't use the tacking for any of these designs just for the sake of accurate pressing. So give that a little bit of time to cool off. Let's see here if it's going to lift at all. And it looks like we're okay. I'm gonna hold those letters down so I don't stretch my shirt out. And we'll do the script font as well, take that carrier off. And there's the finished look. You can see in that pink too, it has that really fuzzy velvet feel to it, which is great for selling to universities or high school students. They really like this design idea, just with the fluffy, fuzzy flock finish. This shirt's great to market to especially younger girls or women in their early 20s, especially college students. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab our next design, and this is the market that I said might surprise you that we were going to add in. I didn't have this on the list of markets to choose from, but before I start pressing this, I see we have one more question, and I'll answer that now.
Do you know if you would need a license to print a high school or college name on a shirt that they intend to sell?
Yes, you do need licensing if you want to use, especially for colleges. You do need to have the license to use their logo. You don't want to start selling their logo without the proper licensing because it can get you and your business into a lot of trouble. So make sure before you start pressing anything with a college logo or affiliate name that you have the proper licensing. Now, if you're pressing something that just says, you know, the name, the team name, it doesn't have a logo, you're probably fine, but I would check and make sure that you have the proper licensing before I would start pressing anything for a college or high school sport. Any other questions? Okay, so this next market is for the Greek market, and I have another really flouncy shirt. It looks very similar to the first shirt. This is more of an open neck garment that's really popular with sororities. So I'm going to go ahead and load this garment onto our press. Pull it all the way up and pull it back by the shoulders to really get that center for my design. Make sure I give it a quick preheat. Turn my pressure up slightly, and this design has a lot of really special things about it. This shows the ability to use flock with different medias so that you can really get the most out of the material. We have a digital print for part of this design, which I'll be pressing first, and you can really match a lot of different patterns and colors with flock. So I chose like a blue paisley background, and this is CAD-CUT Clear Matte. Now this material can be pressed at a very low temperature, as low as 280 degrees. But for time's sake and because it won't really hurt the material, I'm going to leave our press at 320 degrees, but I'll only press this material for 10 seconds. And I'll lock that down. Now, the reason I chose this background and mixed media for the Greek wear is that I chose to do a monogram, which is very popular with sororities and fraternities. Not only monograms with names, but you can also use monograms of the actual name of the sorority itself. And this is also a cold peel, so I'm going to hang that off the press and let it cool for a little bit. But also, if you are going to get into monogramming for sororities using the name of the sorority, you may also want to look into licensing for those sororities as well, because sometimes they have their own policies against using their names on garments that you're going to be selling. So I'm going to go ahead and peel back our carrier on our digital material background, and that's CAD Color Clear Matte. And you can see I kind of have some space knocked out in the middle there. And I'm going to drop in CAD-CUT Glitter Flake, another special effect material which really pairs well with the flock because they both kind of have a raised look effect, and they really bring a lot of special effect look to the garment. So CAD-CUT Glitter Flake gets pressed at 320 as well for 15 to 20 seconds. But because I laid down that digital material already, I don't want my carrier from my glitter flake to leave an indent. So it has the fast tack benefit, and I'm going to lock my press down for 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds. I'm going to lift it back up, and I'm going to be able to hot peel that glitter flake to get it off of that shirt before it has the time to leave any indentation in my material that's already down there. So that's a benefit of glitter flake. And you're probably wondering where our flock is for this design. I'm using flock as an accent piece for this design, and I'm going to place 2 flock antlers kind of as a frame to the digital piece, and it's going to really bring together the entire monogram. So I'm lining up my 2 flock antlers there. I'm going to lay my cover sheet down, making sure not to move the 2 antlers, and I'm going to lock down my press for 15 more seconds. Flock makes a really good accent material as well if you're using mixed media. We're going to talk a little bit more about mixed media in our last design, and I'll be able to talk a little bit more about what flock can be mixed with and what flock can't be mixed with, what can be layered on top of flock and underneath of it, and etc. So let me give that a little bit of time to cool down before I peel it off there. Again, I am impatient, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it. Seems to be peeling just fine. Hold that flock down so I don't stretch my garment. And there's our completed monogram design. You can really see how the glitter flake and the flock both elevate this design, plus the background with the full color look. It really, really makes this shirt special. And this appeals highly to young girls or girls of sorority age. This is a great way to get into the Greek market, especially using flock material and glitter materials as add-ons to the design that you would already be making for them, so that you would be able to benefit as well with those sales. So we're going to move on to our last flock design, and it is also mixed media. This is definitely a situation where I've saved the best for last. We have another flowy tank top, and this shirt is going to be used to represent how you can use flock for the cheer market, cheer and dance market. So without further ado, let me load my tank top onto the press, pulling it all the way down, grabbing it by the seams, going to restart and pulling it back just to get that center of my shirt, making sure all of my seams are hanging off of my platen, nothing's in the way. I'm going to go ahead and give it that preheat for a few seconds. And in this application, I will be using Flock's tack method, just because I want you to see how easy and cool it is to get really, really awesome special effect designs using Flock in a way that you may have never thought of before. So grab my cover sheet. I have a base layer of white flock, and I'm going to tack that down for 5 seconds at 320 degrees. I'm going to lift that back up, and you still want to peel cool for flock. Even if you use the tack method, you don't want to rip it off while it's still really hot from that upper platen on your press. And let's see here if my patience has done me well. And I am going to hold down these letters very, very carefully, because I do not want this shirt to stretch at all, because I have another piece to this design that is going to have to cover those letters at the bottom that spell out cheer. So I'm just going to hold those down so nothing stretches. My garment stays the same shape it was when I loaded it onto the press, keeping my seams off. Now for the really, really cool part of this design, we have CAD-CUT adhesive, and I was able to make a contour around my lettering that spell out the word cheer, and when I cut it, it's a solid kind of cover for these letters, and they'll go directly on top of flock. And while we're at this stage in the demonstration, I'll explain that flock is a great access material for other mixed media designs because it can be a foreground layer or a background layer. So flock can go on top of different materials, or it can go behind other materials. And what I've chosen for this design is CAD-CUT adhesive and foil. And if you've watched our Project Press It series, you may have seen this before. It's a really great way to get an embossed look using only CAD-CUT materials, and it has a really special effect bonus to it as well. So have my CAD-CUT adhesive on there. I'm going to grab my cover sheet really quickly, and I'm going to press the adhesive at a medium pressure for 5 seconds. And the CAD-CUT adhesive is a hot peel, so you'll be able to just take the carrier right off. I'm going to smooth out my design there. And then we're going to cover that section of our design with the adhesive in heat transfer foil. And I chose the hologram silver because I think this really accents any shirt, especially for the cheer and dance market. It has a really fun prism effect to it that'll just really elevate this shirt, literally elevating the flock, elevating the foil with the flock. So I'm going to place my cover sheet back down. I'm going to turn up my pressure. I want to have a high pressure for this part of the press, and I'm going to lock it down for 10 seconds for the foil. And once that's done pressing, I'm going to take my cover sheet back, and I'm going to give this shirt plenty of time to cool off because foil is a cold peel. You don't want to peel foil hot because then it won't stick fully to the garment. It might leave chunks here and there, and you really want to get that accurate press with foil because if you do, it's going to leave you with an effect that people won't be able to find anywhere else. So if you're able to offer this decoration method, you will be putting yourself ahead of the game. So give that some time to cool down. And I'm going to try to start peeling this back. See how we do. Looks like we're doing all right here. And you can kind of see as I pull back the foil, you get that really nice, shiny, embossed effect. And if you look in the cavities between the letters, you might see this piece of foil that's kind of like hanging on there. I just take my sleeve and brush that off. It's just extra foil that didn't want to let go. So you just brush that off. It'll flake away. You can shake it around, and you get that really nice, shining, raised, embossed effect, which adds to not only the foil, but the flock as well. They complement each other. You can hold this up so maybe the lights will shine on it, and you can see that really, really nice look that you can get with foil and flock. And it works with any color of flock or foil. This is just my favorite. I think it really complements the cheer and dance market well. So that was it for my demonstrations. I'm going to head back to the table now, and I see like we're getting very short on time, so please stick around with me. I have a video to show you for one more use for flock, but if you have to go, that's okay too, because this will be uploaded to Stahls TV probably within the next week. So I'm going to head back to the table and get ready to show you that video. So as many of you may already know, CAD-CUT materials, some of them have the ability to be used as a part of our rip-away applique process, and flock is one of those materials. So I want to show you a video of that process so that you know how you can incorporate flock into your applique, rip-away applique designs and get use out of your embroidery machine using flock. So we're going to show that video now.
Hi, I'm Mark Marola with Stahls TV. Today, I'd like to discuss applique, specifically the Stahls Rip-Away applique. A lot of embroiderers right now aren't in the applique business, and they should be. It's a great business to be in. Utilizing the Stahls Rip-Away procedure is an easy way to get into that business. Basically, you design up your design with a satin stitch. You load it up into your machine. You put down a piece of the Stahls, either it's the flock, the express print, the 3M, the thermal film, or the glitter flake, and you sew right over the top of it. When you're done, you remove the garment from the machine and you rip away the excess material that you don't want. Today we're going to do some flock. So we're going to sew it out, we're going to rip out the excess flock. When we're done, we're going to finish it off with a heat press. Once that's done, the entire garment is done. It's that easy. So if you'd like, come on over to the machine and we'll start sewing one out. Now, as you can see, a stop has been programmed in there. Now I'm going to push the start again. When it starts, it's going to run a trace out of where I need to put my flock. I'm going to have to peel the flock off of the carrier and then spray some spray tack down. So while I'm running the trace stitch, I'm going to go spray it with some spray tack in another room. I have my piece of flock that I put some spray tack on it, and as you can see, I've got my trace out of the word Fury. Now I'm going to put my flock and I'm going to cover the entire word. I'm going to lay it down. I put the spray tack on it so when the machine is moving back and forth, it doesn't move the actual flock. But as you can see, I'm covering up the entire image. I'm not cutting out any individual letters, numbers, nothing. Just cover up the entire thing. I'm going to press start. It's going to start stitching the satin stitch around the word Fury. All right, the design is now done. Now you need to rip it away. Just to give you a demonstration of how easy it is to rip away, I'm not even going to take it out of the machine. I'm just going to rip it right while it's hooped up. And there, it's now ripped away. As easy as it is to rip away what I don't want, it would be that easy for me to rip away what I do want, which is why from here it's going to go over to the heat press and we're going to do a final heat seal on it and it'll be completely finished. Now we put the hoodie on the heat press. I've left the backing on just for a little bit of support and I've got a pillow underneath it so the satin stitches can sink into the pillow. Set it up, put my cover sheet on it. I'm going to press it for about 10 seconds. And there you have it. We're done. Well, we've done the rip away flock. As an embroiderer, you saw how easy this was. This is a business you should be in. Just to give you an example, we'll do a little bit of math. The approximate stitch count on this particular design was about 14,000 stitches. If you were to direct embroider it, it would be closer to 30,000, maybe a little bit more. If you run conservatively at 900 stitches per minute, on this one, on the rip away applique, you're going to get approximately 4 per hour on a single head machine. If you're doing direct embroidery, you're going to get about 2 an hour. Now, If you take a look at the cost of a hoodie, about $8, your threads are pennies. The flock piece here that we used, cut down to that size, was about 92 cents. So you have a total of about $8.92, and you're doing 4 an hour. So your rough cost is about $35.68 per hour. You're going to sell this hoodie for about $35. So you have a total sale of $140, or worked out an hourly profit of $104.32. Now, if you're doing direct embroidery, you're going to have a hoodie for $8. Your threads, again, are pennies. You're doing 2 an hour, so you've got a total of $16 an hour cost. You're going to sell it for $35, so that's $70. So you're going to have a total hourly profit of $54. So you can either have an hourly profit of $104.32 or $54. This is why most embroiderers should be in this business. For Stahls TV, I'm Mark Marola. Thanks for watching.
So thanks to Mark for that awesome video to show you how you can use ripaway applique with flock. And I have the completed hoodie here with me, and you can really see the true applique effect that you get and how much time and money you can save by using CAD-CUT Flock in the process rather than complete applique. It's a really nice texture, and sometimes it's nice to see the full tangible design. So if there are no more questions, I am going to have to say my goodbyes. I had a really fun time presenting my first Stahls TV live class, and be sure to join us on December 15th for Business Beyond T-shirts printing outside the box with Bob Robinson. He'll be on at 2:00 p.m. to 2:45, teaching you how to print on items that you wouldn't necessarily you would think that you could print on for a t-shirt business, bags, chairs, all kinds of different things, plus a bunch of more surprises for you. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.